is Chris Hartwig. I'm the business administrator for the city. I'm standing in right now for the mayor, who's unfortunately delayed. But we wanted to put this event together so that we could express to you and perhaps educate on certain requirements or expectations with regard to multifamily buildings. We've received a lot of complaints, concerns about conditions, and before we started to do enforcement, we wanted to make sure that people understood not only what we could enforce, but what we would be looking to enforce. And so today what we've done is we've assembled the heads of all departments, including code enforcement, planning, public works, police, fire, I'm probably missing one or two, building department, and law, so that each could give a small presentation on how the process works and the Department of Community Services. How the process works and what the more common violations are that we would be looking to have corrected. So with that introduction, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Mobley, who put the event together. And at the end, we'll take questions, or at the end of each department's presentation, we may take questions, depending upon the length and how long we run. We're going to try and keep on schedule, even though we're 15 minutes late. So with that, here's Mr. Mobley.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you again for coming in and participating in our meeting today. I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of housekeeping things to start with. First of all, the restrooms are out in the corridor here. The ladies' room is to the left, and then the men's room is down the corridor and to the right. That's where the men's room is located. As Chris Hartwick, our business administrator, indicated, we're going to try and move swiftly through this information, but it is information that we want to impart to you, and then we'll take some questions. You'll be hearing from various members of the administration, some directors. Let me just interject. Our mayor, our esteemed mayor, has joined us, Mayor Dwayne Warren, and we're going to ask Mayor Warren to come forward with a few words before we get started. Mayor Warren.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for coming. This is an important day because as we go into the new year, we're going to be aggressively looking at code enforcement, the way the town looks, but most importantly, a lot of our responses to residents from many of your buildings have been calling, and we want to let them know that we're trying to work together with you as the owners and as tenants of the government so we can have more cohesion and to make sure that we have a response that's good for everyone. This is not a landlord-tenant session. We're not getting involved in landlord-tenant disputes. We strictly want to have an environment we have safe housing, safe neighborhoods, and happy people overall. We're going to do our part. We're going to ask you to do your part. We'll ask the tenants to do their part as well. So thank you all for coming out, and you'll hear from each person from various departments that affect your building as we go through. If there are any questions, so we'll take those at the end. Thank you again, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask very quickly for our team from the city who's here to just stand up and introduce themselves real quick. I'm going to start on my right with Marty Mays, who is the Director of Planning and Economic Development.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marty Mays. I'm the Director of Planning and Economic Development, where we also oversee the Building and Construction Department, property maintenance, rent leveling, and that's basically what, and obviously the redevelopment area in the city.
I'm Paul Arthur, the construction official for the city. I regulate all the regulations that we have from the state, and then supervised by inspectors, building, plumbing, electric, and fire. Our phone numbers are on the front door, so if you have any problems, just take a picture of it, it gives you all the phone numbers. It also gives you the website where you can download any forms you need to do, and they're fillable, so you can do them online. It makes it easy for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kafani Allen. I'm the Chief Code Enforcement Inspector for the city, as well as the zoning officer for the city. I oversee all of the code enforcement property maintenance inspectors. And as far as zoning, I'm the zoning officer. You are selling your property, building a property or renting out, one of your stores on Main Street. I'm the person who your tenant would need to see in order to get approval to be there. All right, I'll go into that a little bit more when I get up there, but my name is Stefani Allen again.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Grassi Montilus. I'm the city attorney for the city of Orange Township. My office oversees the Orange municipal prosecutors who will prosecute various violations against the city code or the city of Orange Township code. So I'll get into more of that during my time, my presentation. With respect to, again, how matters are prosecuted, how they're brought to our office, how they're then brought before the court, and how they're dealt with by our municipal prosecutors. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Marty Mays. I'm Director of DPW for the City of Orange. So that's public works, anything related to the roads, infrastructure, leaf collection, snow removal, or like that.
Ray Winfield, Assistant Director of Public Works. I'm in charge of maintaining the streets, parks, properties. I work with Heidi in some code enforcement issues. We address all the garbage concerns and how your garbage should be maintained in front of your property, in front of your buildings and streets.
My name is Vincent Filippo. I'm the health officer for the city of Orange. We actually inspect all your food stores, retail foods, nail salons, hair salons. Also, we issue out births, deaths, marriages, local licenses that we do. On occasion, we will go on complaints from the apartment owners regarding lead or people smoking in the building in certain public spaces that they're not supposed to be doing. And if they need us to code enforcement, they will ask for our assistance, and we will come out there to help them out. Thank you.
My first name is James, my last name is Moss. I'm the court director. As we are doing court through Zoom, I have my number and my staff number. Our job would be to make sure that you guys have the right Zoom, the right court date. Call is a court date, you court date, and I can directly put you in touch with the municipal prosecutor. As my staff and I don't comment on your cases, our job is to make sure that you have a proper link to get in to see the judge. Court is on Thursdays. If there's any issues with the court date you have or not being able to get through, my number is here. You can call me directly. I won't discuss your case, but I will make sure that you get through to the court and into the courtroom properly.
My name is Captain John Petrosha. I'm a fire official for the city of Orange Township. Enforce all the fire codes, inspect all types of buildings in town, commercial, residential. The sales of 1 or 2 family homes, we inspect them also. We work closely with building, code enforcement, anything pertaining to fire. We'll discuss more things later.
My name is Gerard Long. I'm the fire chief, city of Orange Township. My job is to manage fire and emergency services within the city, and to manage the fire response, and also to work with efforts to prevent fires. We work and also to make sure that we also
enforce fire code violations within the city with the fire code. Thank you.
Lieutenant George Stefanelli. I work out of Director Warren's Chief of the Yellow's office, and you guys all know we're here to protect and serve one of the residents of Orange.
All right, thank you, everyone. If you haven't already, I'm going to just ask you to put your cell phone on vibrate. And we're going to start with our first presenter now. There are many more people that RSVP. And so if you don't have the material, we have additional material that's being printed. If you need to leave, before we get that information to you, my business card is going to be outside. Please call me, and I'll make sure that you get the material. With that, we're going to start with our first presenter, which is Paul Arthur.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Arthur. I'm the construction official. I'm the state's representative. I'm the only one that's in the state. We are not the town. We are the state. I must enforce state rules. So if you don't take out permits, then you get violations. I don't like writing violations, but I do. And I see a couple people in here I wrote violations too because they made mistakes. But that's okay. We get it done. We move on. You have a problem, you call me. We work it out. My cell phone is active 24 hours a day. Don't wake me up in the middle of the night, but 24 hours a day. You can text me. I'll call you back in the morning or whatever, but I'm always there. If you have to put a hot water heater in, if it's an emergency on the weekend, you call me. You tell me about it. But don't let us discover it like 2 years later, then we're going to give you a fine. That's not right. I don't like doing fines, but I have to do them. So I'm here to serve you, and it's protection for the people that live there and for the neighbors and everything else. We got a lot of great things that are being built right now, and I'm very, very busy. You see some of the high-rises going up on both sides of the town, and then I got a Wawa's coming in, so there's a lot of great things that are coming into this town that are being built. But I'm always available. If you have any questions, any technical questions, I'm here for that too. Doesn't matter. I'm here. Whatever. Okay? Any questions, guys? No?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Again, if you have some questions, we can go through it at the end. Paul, did you talk about the material that's here, the list of...
No, the list is on the front door. I said that before. On the other one. I just posted that this morning on the front door.
All right. In the packet, you'll find a list of contact information for the building department.
And for permits, you can go online for the state, and you go, it tells you how to do it. Go to the bottom of the page. And if you guys are any of you are contractors or anything like that, go on the fillable one. Fill in your information, and then just print it and then copy. And then when you come into the office, all you have to fill out is the address that you're working on. Makes life a whole lot easier. We can read your email, your contact number, your license number, everything else.
All right.
It's a whole lot easier.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay? Thank you.
Appreciate it. Again, if you have questions, we'll take those questions at the end for all of the presenters. The next presenter from our Division of Code Enforcement is Kafani Allen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate it. So again, my name is Kafani Allen, and can everyone hear me? Yes, or should I use this? Everyone hear me? Good, okay, good. So my name is Kafani Allen, and again, I'm the Chief Inspector for Code Enforcement and the Zoning Officer for the city. So I'll break down both. In Code Enforcement, I'll give you a little bit of, what we do, and a little bit of background on, me. So I've been here with the city now 15 years. And I am, again, the chief inspector. I have 3 inspectors under me and a code enforcement assistant. Our job in code enforcement and property maintenance is to inspect every property in the town, residential and commercial. What we do is make sure that landlords, property owners are, primarily keeping their properties up. As far as, trash, debris on property, overgrowth of grass, weeds, hedges, dead and dying tree limbs. So we get a lot of those complaints a lot. But not limited to that, we also, look at things like whether your roof needs to be replaced, fixed, your gutters need to be cleaned, fixed, windows, broken windows, window screens, all sorts of things of that nature, just to make sure that every property is well maintained. Okay, I see a lot of, property owners and property managers in here that I've dealt with, throughout the years. So they're very well versed on, what we do, what our standard is, what we expect as inspectors. Another part of what we do, besides, making sure that the maintenance is up on the outside, is we also inspect the interiors of these buildings as well. Can you guys see me over there? You good? Okay, I'll move up a little bit. Okay. So we also inspect the interiors of properties as well. And this comes by way of 2 things. Either a tenant complains, we'll get a phone call, tenant complains, I have a leak in my ceiling. I talked to the landlord about it 2 weeks ago. They never did anything. So what our job then is to go out and verify that condition. And if it is a legitimate leak, we reach out to the property owner or the property manager to get that done within a certain amount of time.
Are they required to talk to your landlord first? Can a tenant just call you directly without talking to the landlord?
So it's a great question. So the question is, can the tenant just reach out to us directly without talking to the landlord first? So oftentimes they do, but the process should be that they reach out to you guys first, and we inform them of that process all the time, believe me. So we'll never go to an inspection, to a complaint inspection, and issue a ticket knowing that the tenant never reached out to the property owner or the landlord. We'll always, reach out to the landlord as well, notify them ourselves, despite, whether or not the tenant reached out to you first. So we'll always notify you that way, before we issue a ticket. So the other way we enter an apartment is through a certificate of habitability inspection, rental inspection. So if you guys, as a landlord, property manager, you have an empty apartment, you want to bring somebody else in, a new tenant in, what you should do is give us a call. What you have to do is give us a call. We'll come out and do the inspection just to make sure that that apartment is up to code, safe, it's clean, it's free of any issues and violations for the next tenant to come in. All right, so we do that. Now that's with every apartment. There is a fee for that. It's a $100 fee per apartment. Okay. We come out, we do the inspection, give it a clean bill of health, and if that tenant moves out 2 months later, you got to go through it and do it again. All right, do the same process. We go from application to certificate within 5 days. So it's not a long process. So if you apply for an inspection on a Monday, you'll most likely get that inspection by Wednesday, have your certificate by Thursday, Friday the latest. All right? Another thing that we do is sales inspections. Anytime there's a property transfer, code enforcement has to be notified. There's an application process and a fee for that as well, depending on the size of the unit. $200 for a single family, $300 for a 2-family, so on and so forth. We come out, we do the inspection for the whole house, top to bottom, and we'll issue a certificate of habitability if there are no violations at all. And if there are any violations, doesn't matter what the violation is, broken window, roof collapsing, whatever it is, we'll issue a temporary certificate of habitability so that that property can get to the closing table. If we issue the temporary certificate, the buyer or the seller, just depends on what your real estate contract says, but you have 6 months to abate those issues, those violations. If you get it done in 6 months, great, call us back, we'll come out and do the inspection. You get it done in 6 weeks, great, call us back, we'll come out, verify, and do that inspection.
Now, you say this, call you back and we do the inspection. What kind of timeline?
So you have 6 months from the time that we issue that temporary certificate. So it just depends on your timeline. So if you get it done, if you go through our report, certificate of habitability sales report, and you see that you have a list of 15 violations on there, and you get all 15 violations cleared up in the next 2 weeks, great, no problem. Give us a call back, we'll come out.
Yeah, how long are you going to take to
Oh, that's usually, we'll schedule within that week. So just depends on how busy the calendar is. Thursdays are reserved primarily for court, so we won't do a Thursday inspection, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're available. We do the inspections. We have, 3 inspectors if need be. I'll come out, I'll do the inspection as well.
Did you give him your cell phone?
Did I? Not yet, but I can if everyone's ready to take it down.
It's in the list, too. Huh?
It should be here on the list,
Check
but
the
it's
last
not.
page to make sure.
Yeah, it should be there, but I'll give it anyway. Number is 973-296-8419. All right, so
I'm sorry, I want to interrupt you.
okay, cool. So as far as code enforcement, that's primarily what we do in code enforcement. Now, in the zoning side, we work very closely with the building department, with the fire department, and with the police department as well. And how we all correlate is if the fire department gets a complaint or they go out and do an inspection on a home that looks like it should have been a 2-family home, and then they go to the basement, they see a stove or a kitchen set up, Captain Petrosha will call me right away. Hey, Kafani, look, I was at 123 Main Street. They got a stove in the basement. You should go check it out. I don't think it's legal. So what I would do as a zoning officer is take a look at that and contact the property owner that they have to get rid of this stove that's in the basement or in the attic, the 3rd floor apartment. A lot of that, we see that a lot. As zoning officer, my job primarily is to govern the zones that the city council and the planning department have created to make sure that we have certain uses done in certain parts of the city, right? So we don't want to see commercial retail in the middle of, say, Berkeley Avenue, right? There's different zones for different things, and that's what I'm here to enforce and govern. So the same way we don't want to see a 2-family home being utilized as a 4-family home or as a rooming house, and other types of situations like that. So in zoning, that's what I get involved in. There was projects, a lot of high-rises we talked about a little bit earlier, a lot of high-rises, being built here around the city, Wawa coming in. So the first desk that they cross is the zoning officer's desk. And then, I send them to the necessary board, or I approve it if I can, or I deny it if I have to. All right, so that's pretty much my job in a nutshell.
Where's your office located?
My office is located at 29 North Day Street, 3rd floor, zoning office, located within the planning department.
How long does it take, or how long does the zoning have in order to approve an application?
It's a great question. So in order to approve an application, zoning has up to 10 business days. Now, what is a zoning application for? A zoning application could be for anything as large as a Wawa being built on Main Street to you want to put an HVAC condenser in the backyard of your single-family house. So zoning comes in, in all those cases because I have to make sure, the zoning officer has to make sure that you meet the minimum required setbacks at your property. So if you wanted to do central air system and put an HVAC system in, or if you wanted to enclose your property with a nice new vinyl fence, you need to make an application to the zoning officer. I'll take a look at it, see where you're located in town, whether you're in a historic district or not. There's certain rules that you got to follow, whether you're in these districts. For example, historic district, if you are in a historic district, which is primarily like the Seven Oaks area, Berkeley Avenue, Fairview, that area over there, you won't be able to put up a brand new vinyl fence, a white privacy fence. You have to use either wood or wrought iron, right? So seeking counsel from the zoning officer or putting in that zoning application is definitely in your best interest, because if you do put up that nice brand new white vinyl fence, I may come around and make you take it down, then you'll be mad at me, then nobody wants that, right? So any questions from the, sure.
What can we do about tenant-caused code violations, such as local code refers to a junk car as inoperable, and state code refers to them as abandoned, or putting out garbage early? Even if you notify them legally, there's no penalty.
Okay. Okay. So you want to say that? Okay. Okay. So if I understand the question correctly, what can we do as property owners to alleviate the issues where someone, puts a car, I'm sorry, give me that one more time.
An inoperable vehicle is the local description of code.
Inoperable vehicle, okay, yes.
The state refers to it through the DCA 5-year inspection as an abandoned vehicle.
Okay.
We get the notice as landlords, we know who the car belongs to. I've already taken a tenant to court for that, they agreed to remove it, they did not.
What can you do is the question?
What do you do?
Okay. So to answer that question, and Chris, if you want to restate. So to answer that question, great question, by the way. That happens a lot, especially in these apartment complexes where there's a lot of parking. So to answer that, once it's, number one, that's not a code enforcement property maintenance thing. That's more of a landlord-tenant thing. So once you already have the issue from the court or from your lawyer, you notify that tenant, you then have to, go through with your attorney and that tenant to remove that car from the lot if it is in fact an abandoned vehicle. But property maintenance doesn't typically get involved with that. What we look at are structural issues, the aesthetics of your property, but we don't necessarily deal with in code enforcement, and we don't necessarily deal with vehicles being parked on your property in spaces that are, for that. Now, on the zoning side, as a zoning officer, if that's the case where, it won't really be in that case either, but let's say you have a vacant lot, right? There's a vacant lot that you bought the lot for next to nothing, and you want to do something there in the future, you just don't know what yet. So now you just have a vacant, empty lot of grass sitting there, so you decide, you know what, in the meantime, I'm going to rent this out, let people park here so I can cover my taxes. Or, I'm going to park there, leave a couple of vehicles there because I have nowhere else to put them. That you can't do, because now you're changing the use of that lot. That lot is not permitted for parking, so you can't do that. So then I'll, ride around and I'll see that, I'll issue a violation notice for that and give you X amount of days to remove those vehicles. If you don't, then, I'd have to issue a ticket. So, yeah, I don't know if that necessarily answers that question. But as far as code, like, to answer your question, you have to contact the police department for the vehicle. Once you do that, you have to take that up with your attorney and that tenant. But code enforcement, property maintenance doesn't get involved in that part.
Todd's going to answer the question.
But
Okay.
you could write up, there's a violation for failure to remove inoperable vehicles.
So,
We're going to put police just after this.
Yeah, we're going to have the police.
okay. Do you want me to stay in here or you?
No, you can just stand aside.
Okay.
And then Todd will call you.
Many times, random person from somewhere puts some illegal or wrong things on a wrong day outside our building. Earlier, the garbage to be picked up and we are cited like tickets and whatnot. How do we protect those random people and we can't police 24 hours?
So, garbage pickup and removal, that's not code enforcement either. That's not property maintenance. That's a better question for Public Works Department, Public Works Director Marty Mays or Ray Wing.
Yeah, but who gives the ticket to us? We get the ticket for...
You'll get the ticket from...
We're going to ask you to hold that question now because the police is going to come in right now, and they're going to come and present, and they're going to address some of the questions.
With garbage.
I just want to answer your question. That's a great point because a lot of folks misconstrue what code enforcement property maintenance inspectors do and what other departments do. We don't issue tickets for garbage being put out too early or on the wrong day. That's not what we do. But if you have a ton of garbage on your property, we'll issue a ticket for that. But we don't determine who puts it out when and the times it gets collected. That's not what we do. But if you do put it out early, Public Works, I'm sure the directors, they'll address that for you. What can you do and what time you should put it out. Any other questions for me? Are we good? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Fadi. Our next presenter is our Director Todd Warren from the Orange Police Department. Director Warren.
Good afternoon, Director Warren of the Orange Police Department. I want to welcome you here today. Just got back from a funeral, so I'm ripping and running. I'll give you a brief overview, and then Lieutenant Stefanelli here will answer any questions. So far this year, we have a 31% reduction in violent crime. we've hired 18 new cops this year. We have 7 going into the academy, 7 special police officers going into the academy. So what we're doing now, during the holiday seasons, we are increasing patrols in our commercial corridors. In the spring, we get our bikes out and things of that nature. So we're just basically looking at where our problems are, and we're targeting those locations. We're working with residents and community groups and community block watches and things of that nature. We've established a great relationship with the community, and we started an anonymous tip line. We have cards here for you guys. It's anonymous. You can use it. You can send in text messages. You can send in pictures. Your information will never be shared. There is a detective monitoring that line 24 hours a day. You will get a response, and we will look at whatever your complaint is and develop a corrective action plan, because each situation is different. One person may have folks blocking their driveways or parking in their lots. So you call us, Lieutenant Stefanelli's in charge of traffic. I'll call him. He'll call a tow truck or whatever the issue is, and he'll address it. If it's a narcotics problem, we'll have Captain Mooney, who's in charge of our special ops, our vice squad. We'll take a look at it, conduct surveillance, develop a corrective action plan. And even in terms of narcotics, your situation may be different than some other person's situation in a different area. So that corrective action plan will be tailored for your particular situation. Under Mayor Warren's leadership, he advised us that we are to be hard on crime, and he also wanted us to show the community that we do more than just lock folks up. So we've established a number of community police endeavors. We have a public safety food distribution initiative that took place when COVID started, because we know the food scarcity is a public safety issue as well. And it was our way of bridging the gap between police and community, because we know that there are some issues. So what we're trying to do is build a strong relationship. We are preparing for our annual toy drive with the fire department. It's a public safety initiative where we give out toys for families throughout the year. Every year for Christmas, we give out 200 and some odd turkeys for Thanksgiving. So it's not just about locking folks up, but it's about community policing. It's about building relationships. And we want a relationship with you guys. We want you to have one with us where we can work together. You know, it's like you're not always complaining to us and we're not always coming down on you. So a fair relationship. In 2022, we're looking to hire 10 new officers. So our numbers have increased significantly, and we have cops on walking posts, doing 1073s, it's like a park and walk. You park the car, you get out, you walk, you engage folks, because it's about building relationships. We have our officers patrolling the school areas, and we're real big on the parking in front around our schools in the morning, double parking, dropping off kids, which is a headache, but we're working that out. So we're here to work with you. Whatever you need from us, please feel free to reach out. Lieutenant Stefanelli is in charge of traffic, and he is one of my go-to people. So we have the tip cards, and he'll give out information or contact information for us as well. All right? Thank you. You know, I appreciate that, because it's a thankless position. You don't really hear that a lot. All you get is complaints. But thank you for that. Thank you. And if there's anything that we can do, anything more, or any ideas that you may have that what we're not doing, we may not see it, but you may. But because of the relationship, we want to receive the information that you want to share with us, okay?
That's a great idea with the texting and the calls and everything. That would make life so much easier if you guys could help us.
But we're here for you. We're looking at quality of life issues also. You guys are property owners, and we're big on quality of life. If we see debris in the street, like I was being taken to a funeral, and there was debris on the streets. And my guys have such a great relationship with Public Works, and Raymond Wingfield, wherever he is doing such a good job, and the relationship is so strong that Without me telling my driver, he got on the phone and he called Raymond's office and said, there's debris on Perot Street. Someone needs to get over here and clean it now. He didn't wait and say, well, that's not a police issue. I'm not getting involved. This is about relationship. And I was proud of him when he did that, because that's what we want. If it's a fire issue and fire's not around, we'll pick up the phone and call the chief. That's what we do. So if we see something going on around your property, we're going to address it. Because you're hardworking people, you invest your money, and you don't deserve to be subjected to certain types of activity, we'll say. So we're here for you guys, and we appreciate you. We want to work well with all of you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director Warren. Our next presenter from the Orange Fire Department, Director Long.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Chief Long, Orange Fire Department. Just wanted to inform you on fire operations briefly before I bring up the fire official. 24/7, 365, you have firefighters on duty for fire protection for your business. So no matter what the time of the day is, your alarm goes off, carbon monoxide alarm, we're going to respond to your location. That's a deputy chief. You got 4 fire trucks and firemen on duty to assist you. And when we respond to your place of business and we're investigating, we take a look around. It's a preliminary inspection of your business. So once we come to your location, we take this information, we provide it to the fire official if there's any fire code violations that we find. We respond to all different types of emergencies, not just fire. Alarm activations, water leaks, gas leaks, car accidents, rescues. That's what we do. It's not just fires. We take pride in educating the community. So I'm kind of glad that Chris Mobley put this together, because my fire official and myself can enlighten you on some things that you can do to better protect your business, and also so you can better satisfy the fire code. Okay, I'm a hands-on fire chief. I want to provide you with my information. If there's anything that I can do to assist you, I want you to be able to reach out to me and I can give you a response to my best efforts. And that's all I have. We're here to work with you and not against you.
Do you regularly inspect buildings for fire? Is that a yearly type of thing?
Yes, man. That's an annual fire inspection that we perform.
How do you notify?
I'm sorry, man?
How do you notify us that you're coming to us?
We try to go into updated information that we have. If not, we reach out to you and try to schedule an appointment with you for your fire inspection. And I'll let my fire official go more into that. But the buildings in the city of Orange, when we perform a fire inspection, it's really a first line of defense for a big fire to start. So that's the whole process that we use. We come and inspect your property to make sure there's no violations that will further cause any type of fire that would damage your property. So that's what this is all about, is to assist you. If you have a question, sir?
Yeah, we manage and own various properties, and the fire inspection dates are different, and it's hard to keep track of them all. And have the vendors come out, the licensed vendors come out, and have the sprinkler system, the gas system, the gas pumps, fire extinguishers, inspected randomly. Is there a code number we can call to see if we can set up a certain date? Instead of just waiting for those random dates?
Yes, sir. We'll provide you with, I'll give you my information, and I'll also give you information, my fire official will give you his contact information. You contact him directly. When you want your property inspected, or if you need assistance with scheduling it, you can speak to the fire official directly and make sure that it's in a more organized fashion.
Who's the fire official?
Fire official is Captain Petrosha. He is over here to my left. I'm going to call him up. And as I said, we want to work with you. And I hope that after this session that we've educated you better on the whole process. So thank you for your time.
That long,
you're new in this position.
Yes,
Our
sir.
fire director went to another place, and you were directing the fire department. Do they have your cell phone number?
Yes, as the mayor said, our previous director went to Trenton. I am now the head of the fire department, and I want to provide you with my cell phone number directly. If you could bear with me one moment. My card and everything.
Please don't call yourself that often.
I really, Mayor, it's a new city phone, forgive me. Cell number, 862 253 8278. I'm going to pass on my business card as well, but I'll give it to you anyway. My email address, G as in Gregory, Long, G Long at orangenj.gov. GLO, and as in Nancy, G at orangenj.gov.
What's the cell again? Because we're writing down.
Let's see, 862
862
253
253
8278.
8278.
Please feel free to reach out at any time, and I'll take time out to best help you best I can.
Everyone has a cell phone list?
Everybody has it. I would like to now bring up, I'm sorry.
Whenever you come for annual plan inspection and otherwise, people just walk in, I mean, the inspector just walk in. It would be nice, professional office or anywhere else, that you give 1 day's warning or try to make some appointment which is convenient to the office. And typically the doctor's office, you guys walk in when patients are there, it's just not nice. But I'm saying that can there be a dialogue about just instead of walking in, give 1 day's appointment or some adjustment?
So I just want to make sure I heard this correctly. You're saying that it would be more preferable if you would have a warning before we got there.
Yep. Warning or appointment that we are coming to.
Call in advance and say you're coming instead of just walking to his patients. They all go out. He can't make any money. He's got to leave.
I agree with that, sir, and that's something that I'll make sure that we'll work with the fire officials.
It was never done before. They just walk in.
Okay. Sir.
Code question regarding Knox boxes. I have 4 families that require Knox boxes.
For families, it's a city ordinance for the Knox box. I'm going to allow my fire official to go into more detail about that. Okay. We can give you a more effective answer. The fire official, Captain J. Petrosi.
Thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, any multifamily requires a Knox box. Roll-down gates, monitor alarm systems, all require Knox boxes. If we think it's a difficult entry, it's going to take a lot of time to get in the building, we want a Knox box. We don't want to waste 20 minutes hammering on your door. So that 20 minutes is a lot of time.
What is a Knox box?
Knox box goes outside of every building. It's like it looks like a little mini safe. And the only one with the key to the box is the fire department. And in the box is keys to utility room, alarm room, anything we need to get to in an emergency. Like to shut the sprinkler down, shut the gas off, or just the alarm room, just the front door just to get in. Roll down gates, especially on Main Street, the roll down gates can be a real issue. So a key to the gates, to the front door, anything that is of urgency.
Now, Long said you're going to put together a list of things that belong in the Knox box. Do you know when that could be ready?
We could probably have something like that by next week. It's not very difficult. It's just, like I said, do you want to be put on the website?
That'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make a list up. I'll give it to Roy and put it on the website. A lot of familiar faces here. A lot of you probably know me throughout the years going through the buildings. But some of the most common violations here are, a lot of it's basic housekeeping. Accumulation of rubbish in the basement, in the hallways, stuff like that. In case we got to get down there at 3 in the morning, we don't want to be tripping and falling. We want to get to the utilities and do our job. Fire extinguishers, alarm systems, and sprinkler systems all get done on a yearly basis. I'm sure everybody here knows that. But one of the biggest issues is we don't get the reports in time. So I send out a violation, an alarm report didn't receive your alarm report yet, and then, oh, I had it done. That's all well and good, but if I don't have the paperwork, to me, it's not done.
Well, how am I supposed to get your alarm report?
A lot of times the companies email it to me. Email it, or they can mail it. I'm sure they get a copy. 'Cause once the alarm company comes out, they pay the bill, they get a copy. They should forward a copy to me by mail, email, or just drop it by the firehouse.
When is it due?
Each property is a little different. Some properties it's in January, March, whatever they're, it's not a set date every
Is it
year.
annual?
It's an annual thing. You know, somebody takes over the business, they do it in February, so then every February. Somebody else can move in May or June, then it's May or June, you know?
So do you get, if I don't have my report in, do I get a ticket automatically, or do you call me and let me know?
Well,
How does that happen?
usually we send a violation out. A violation, you have 30 days to abate.
Okay.
If you don't abate within the 30 days, then we can issue a penalty. We don't like issuing penalties, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. The name of the game here is compliance. We want everybody to comply with the code. It's a state of New Jersey code enforcement here. I work under the state guidelines, so everything has to be in compliance with the state. It's about safety. Safety for your tenants, and safety for my firefighters when they come in that building 3 in the morning and things are going crazy. I want to make sure they go home, and I want to make sure your tenants are safe.
If I'm a tenant, can I call and ask, is my building alarm filed, and are you required to give me that information at the time?
I usually don't get involved between tenant and landlord stuff, but, you know, if they ask if the building's in compliance, most of the time, I'm honest with them. I tell them yes or no, or I call the landlord and say, look, you gotta do this, this, and this.
Okay.
You know, because a lot of issues is too, the alarms go off numerous times. Everybody here knows that. 400 Oakwood, you know that. So, and the alarms are in trouble. You have to get them repaired as soon as possible. You know, they gotta be fixed as soon as possible. There's a bunch of egress. A lot of the apartment buildings, you guys chalk the egress doors open. You know, not every building, but a lot of buildings we go in, they cannot be chopped open. The purpose of them is to keep the smoke and fire from spreading to another section of the hallway so that people can get out of the building safer. You cannot chop those doors open. The egress lights, that's another issue. They have to be maintained. You have your super or maintenance guy, just go around once a month, just push the button, make sure they work. If they don't, change the battery. Egress and exit signs. Doors can't be locked, they're not supposed to be locked. And there's electrical. All these are in the pamphlet there that you can review. Electrical, can't have open electrical boxes. You know, live wiring can't be open, has to be contained in a box and sealed. Extension cords can't be used as a permanent wiring. Okay. All right, so that's about it for me right now. Any questions or issues, my phone number's here, direct line, and my email. Just call me or email me, and we'll discuss anything further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, our next presenter is Marty Mays from the Department of Public Works. Oh, by the way, so you just received this information. It has the cell phone numbers on it. Mine is not on there. And again, it's Chris Mobley, M-O-B-L-E-Y. My cell number is 973-568-4684.
Hold on, I didn't get that.
973-568-4684. And it's Chris Mobley. When we finish up here today and you leave out, my business card will be here. All right, with that, we're going to bring up Marty Mays.
I'm Marty Mays, I'm Director of DPW. Again, we deal with the infrastructure, the leaves, things like that. I heard a couple of questions that I did want to answer. To somebody, they might have left, they talked about the tenants putting out garbage early, and they talked about some of the violations for putting out the wrong garbage or not the right garbage. So that falls under Public Works Department. And that's something that if you're having those issues, you should definitely deal and talk with me or my deputy director, Ray Wingfield.
When tenants do things like that, Marty, who gets the penalty for it?
Typically, the landlord gets the penalty for it. So if you have that situation or you have repeat offenders, you need to call in and let that DPW know so we can be looking for that if that happens to you. So we're the department for the garbage. We also issue a couple permits. We issue road opening permits if you want to do something to the sidewalk, or in cases when I deal with the businesses is when they have a tree in front of the store and they have issues with that. So those are all things that are public works and not necessarily code enforcement. And you can contact me. Here's my number. My number is 973-885-1921. And I'm gonna ask Ray Winfield to.
Is that a cell phone number?
That's my cell phone, work cell phone.
What's your name?
Marty Mays.
What department?
DPW and engineering.
Can you get that number again, please?
Ready? 973-885-1921. Also want to mention.
Hold on, go slow. Marty probably get real fast, so we gotta get. Say it again, Marty?
973-885-1921. And I also did mention water, any water issues with your water as well, Public Works.
You have a question, Marty?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, now, first I want to ask you regarding tenants who leave garbage in front of the street or in front of the house. And when you get a violation from the code enforcement or from your office, even if you want to pay that fine and say, you know what, let me pay the fine and deal with the tenants, you are not allowed to do that. You have to come to court.
Okay, can you hold that question, because legal and the courts are gonna present. But that's a very good question. Sometimes you just wanna pay it and get rid of it, but it's more time consuming to go to the court. Just hold that, a law department.
Go ahead, sir.
We're sort of new in town, we have a legal issue. Does the township have a legal?
I'm sorry.
Fire, can you keep it?
Yeah.
Fire department, can you keep it?
Raymond Wingfield, Assistant Director of Public Works. So any emergency issues that go to Suez, we are is our contractor for water, and I can give you the telephone number. It's 888.
This is Suez, the manager of the water system in Orange. The direct number is
888.
888
299
299
8972.
72. That's Suez, who manages the water in the city of Orange Township.
That is correct.
And that's a 24-hour emergency number.
And if you have a problem with that number, who do you call? You got Marty Mays' cell phone, right?
Yes, you could call Marty Mays or myself.
What's your name?
Raymond Wingfield.
What do you do?
Assistant Director of Public Works.
What's your cell?
My city cell is 973
973
592
592
5703.
5703.
Yes.
Everybody got that?
You have a question, sir?
I do. My building's on 564 Thomas, and there's a, I don't know what you want to call it, a stream or retaining behind the building.
Yes.
And it's a lot of litter in there. Tires, trees, branches, and I called you guys, and you point to the water department to clean it up, and then the water department points their finger to you guys to clean it up. So
that looks like an inter-office agency issue. At some point, I guess Chris Harwood can speak to that, because he oversees the management of the water department. So I can have him speak to that.
But is it the water department's spot, like drainage, or is it the city's drainage?
Chris, why don't you jump in now?
Yeah.
That's a good issue. And it affects everybody along that line.
So it's a coordination issue. It would be, the complaint would first come into the water department, and what they're supposed to do is
coordinate with DPW to get it on the list to be cleaned up.
But he's saying he's calling both, they're pointing
I
fingers at each
started
other.
last year in November. You guys know. You guys cut trees down there too. I started last year in November, and still nothing's been.
All right,
So who's the ultimate decision maker in that regard?
that would be me.
Okay.
Do we
But I'm
get,
new at that.
did
So-
we get Chris Hartwick's number? Okay, we ready?
973
973
280
280
2587.
2587. Business Administrator Christopher Hartwig with a Y.
So I call you to.
Yeah, I'll talk to you right after the meeting.
Okay.
Again, my name is Raymond Wingfield.
Well, you had a question to the right.
I had a question. Yes, to the right.
If we would like to clean up our property, can we place a dumpster on the outside on the street or a dump truck?
Yes, you
So
could put a
property
dump, you could
cleanup
put a
without
dump.
a permit?
No, you need a permit.
Okay.
You can place a dumpster outside of the street with the approval of Public Works, Police, and Fire. And you need a permit.
What's the turnaround time upon submitting
Once you
the
submit
permit?
your application, the turnaround time is approximately 2 days.
Okay. Is there a cost?
Yes, there is a cost.
Okay.
There is a cost attached. And while we're speaking on that, whether you're putting it on the street or your property, you still need a permit and there's a cost attached. So whether it's on your property or on the street, you need a permit.
I gotta pay the town of Orange money to put a dumpster on my property.
Correct, under the ordinance? Yes, sir.
But bring it up to the VA after too, because I think they're doing
Bring it
something.
to
Bring it up to the VA after as well.
So I had a question with Suez, I believe is the private vendor that you have, and I appreciate the fact that they get back to you pretty quickly. But do they have a mechanism that they have reports?
Just a minute, I'm sorry. I'm gonna ask everybody to keep it down so that we can hear the question because I can't even hear it and I'm standing pretty close. Please continue.
Right, they have a mechanism of an incident report or whatever it is, a work order, when I call in for it. I represent 5053 South Essex, L&M and CNC Management, and I did have an incident, where we're getting water into the sewer and it goes into the pit of our elevator and it's shutting down a couple of times.
They do generate a work order and report.
Yeah, because then I'll follow up on a personal basis with you guys just to try to resolve that issue and that problem because I wasn't satisfied with what was told. And then I try to coordinate with them to be on site so I can find out exactly what was going on, and that never happened,
I just want to go into depth with some more issues, and then if there's any questions after that, we can take the questions. But I want to get into some things really quickly before we can try to get you guys in and out of here. Oh, okay.
All right, next presenter, we're going to come back to Raymond, and he's going to give you some more information, but I wanted to get in our Law Department Director, Ross Montilla.
If I need to use the mic, just let me know. If everybody can hear me, then that's great. Again, my name is Ross Montillis. I'm the city attorney for the city of Orange Township. So as I indicated earlier, I oversee the municipal prosecutor's office, the city of Orange Township Municipal Prosecutor's Office, who's charged with prosecuting all of the violations of summonses that come before the court, charging different violations, again, overgrowth, quality of life issues, and the like, and then we prosecute it. So I gotta be quite honestly, by the time it gets to us, our job is rather easy because all of the work has already been done by the personnel that's behind me. They're the ones that are going out to inspect. They're the ones that are writing the summonses. They're the ones that are actually taking the photographs. The process is obviously when you're handed a summons, you're then also entitled to whatever information supports that summons. We call it discovery. So you're entitled to get a copy of discovery. If you're going to get an attorney, your attorney would then get a copy of the discovery as well. There are two words that I heard while other presenters were presenting, and those are very important words. Number one, abatement, or to abate, and number two, compliance. We're not here to necessarily penalize everyone that actually comes before the court. Our main area of concern, to be honest with you, is that the issues are abated and rectified, and that the homeowners and anyone who's cited
is actually in compliance with our code. So to the extent that you get a summons, it's not the end all to be all. We're more interested, to be honest with you, that the conditions and the issues are abated, are rectified, and that you are in compliance with what the code directs you to do or to be as a property owner within the city of Orange Township. There was a question back there, sir. You had a question with respect to a summons or some type of violation.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the recognition. You have multiple tenants in a building, and there's no way you can identify a particular tenant who left something in front of the street or like a curb sign, and you get a violation from the city. Now you are not able to pay that violation, even if you want to pay it just for sake of time. You are meant to come to court. It takes more time from you, and you can't even get any tenant to admit that happens. So I don't know how the city will be able to help.
He said administratively, why should he have to waste time? He wants to pay and move on, but he has to wait for court. He may not be called early. It could be 2-3 hours where he's making money. Now he's losing money by paying, and he's losing money off the job.
And you still have to pay it, that penalty to the court.
Understood. So there are, with respect to the summonses that charge code violations, those are mandatory court appearances, and they're mandatory court appearances for a reason. Because again, what we're looking for is abatement and compliance. And what we are also looking for are those individuals who are persistent violators. Okay, so that's why it's important for you when you're cited to have to, or you're mandated to come to court, because we then have to check our records to see if there were prior violations. Because if there were prior violations, then guess what? The fines are going to increase the more violations you have. So that's why that's mandated. Now, the way that our court system works today, due to the pandemic, is that we are now virtual. So municipal courts, statewide appearances are in fact Zoom by virtual appearance. So you don't necessarily, and again, I'm sure it's still an issue in terms of convenience, but it at least alleviates having to actually go to the municipal court, stay there for hours until your case is called. You can actually get on a virtual court and make whatever arrangements you need to make. I don't know if Mr. Moss, Director Moss, is still here, but again, there are some things that you can do that would alleviate you having to actually go to court, to the extent that your main concern or your main issue is just paying the violation and moving forward.
Is it possible, Mr. Law Department, that we could look at changing the ordinance such that people that we identify as first offenders, whatever the amount is, they can just pay it and keep moving, but if you're not a first offender, then you have to appear so we can determine what your penalty is?
So it certainly is possible to do that. And the mayor's like a heckler at a convention. So it is certainly possible to amend the ordinance where you're actually dealing with first offenders and the like, and that's something that we.
I'm gonna take a look at that.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. But for right now, the way that the ordinance reads, again, it's to your benefit to actually come to court, to know what the issue is, to be able to address it, look at the evidence or the discovery that we have, and then deal with it accordingly.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
On that same topic, I'm building 4 stores and tenants up above. And if a store puts out garbage, early on garbage day or whatever, the town tells me the landlord gets the summons.
That's
so
true.
I have to now sit in court when you know who put it out here, all right? And I then have to go back and go back as a tenant, either drag him into court with me or make him pay whatever fine. But I sit there for 3 hours, and you know who put the garbage out. They don't know.
Understood. And so, unfortunately, sir, that's actually again that is a property owner issue. The summons does certainly belong to you properly. How you handle that between landlord-tenant, that's something that you could do. You could certainly require, if again, put it in your lease. Put it in your lease agreement that to the extent that that I have to pay a fine that's trivial to your actions, then again the cost will be passed on to you. But as the property owner, you are certainly responsible. Now, to the extent that you know who it is, you could certainly tell us, right? And then we'll take the appropriate action to the extent that you know where it is. To the extent that the tenant wants to come with you to court and take responsibility, that's another way to handle it, where you're not then, you know, but again.
But under the statute, if he has an agreement with the tenant, he can put us on notice that he has such an agreement.
Correct.
Who the tenant is, and we can issue the ticket directly.
Correct.
to the tenant.
Correct. So then, as I indicated, put that in your lease. Again, property owners, put that in your lease. So then at this point, that takes away responsibility from you. You notify us, get us a copy of that lease agreement, so that our officials can go out and issue the proper individual.
All right.
Okay? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
If a tenant is incapacitated and you have to evict the tenant, can you call the city?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm gonna come over here. I had a little trouble hearing you, I'm sorry.
If a tenant is incapacitated medically and you have to evict that tenant, can you call the city to come in and give a violation because the tenant cannot maintain the apartment?
So the question is, if you have a tenant who's incapacitated and you are then going to court, landlord-tenant court with eviction proceedings, can you call the city to issue violations against that tenant for certain issues that the tenant?
Yes, cannot maintain the apartment.
Okay. And again, it goes back to the ultimate owner, the ultimate person responsible for these violations would be the property owner. Okay, unless there's an issue, unless that's specifically specified in your lease. Now, to the extent that there isn't somebody that can't do for themselves, you can actually call us, call one of our officials, and we'll come out and we'll see what the issue is and how we can rectify the situation. Yes, ma'am.
Just to carry on what she's saying, wouldn't we be able to call the fire department so that they can basically say that the apartment or whatever it is not habitable because of what the tenant is creating?
Okay. So I'm going to go to Chief Long for that question. I don't know if you heard the question, Chief. But
So what she was stating is that if there's a resident who is not keeping the apartment up to maintenance, has a hoarding issue or whatever the case may be, can we evict the tenant based on fire code violations that they're not following or etc.?
So in terms, I think that you worded it differently the second time, but with respect to eviction, right, so that you'd have to actually go and it should be, you should remember that the city cannot give you or render legal advice, right? You'd have to be on your own in terms of going to get the proper legal advice, and that's more of a landlord-tenant issue, a landlord question issue, whether or not eviction.
I guess the question will be, can the fire department issue like a code violation for having an inhabitable space?
In a situation like that, we would probably bring in other agencies, health, property maintenance, maybe even building. That's not just ours. The way a person maintains their apartment, like if they're a hoarder or something, it's a fire hazard per se, but we can't write a violation on that. So we would bring in health department, it's a health issue, and code enforcement, property maintenance. We'd work together with interagencies and we'd solve a problem like that. It's not just strictly fire.
I have a question that could be back on that. If code enforcement comes, issues a violation to the landlord to clean up after a tenant who is unable to clean up after themselves. In other words, you can see clearly that there were messes in that area.
Mm-hmm.
The tenant is unable to clean, and the rest of the space shows kitchen, bathroom, bedroom. We go in, we clean up as best as we can. As far as I know, in landlord tenancy, a landlord is not a housekeeper. We can go in and maintain the unit in terms of life and safety, but we can't help it when someone is ill. So what do we do? I know you say call other agencies, but
We're not housekeepers either.
Exactly, but
You know,
so
so,
where do we?
Honestly,
We get
if it's a health issue to them, to other tenants, the health department get involved. If it's something else, you know, property
And
maintenance
there's no
will get
next
involved.
of kin.
Excuse me?
And there's no next of kin to
Well, then
assist
maybe,
them.
maybe we can call some other agencies to give her assistance.
No, we'll put it with community service.
Community service, that's what I was
So
thinking.
staff will look at that.
So as far as fire hazards go, if there's an abandoned apartment and we're currently in the process of noticing abandonment with our lawyer and whatnot, we and the utilities are completely shut off, and we're in contact with the tenant, it's abandoned, are we required to keep those utilities going as part of a fire hazard? Because as said, tenant is just completely shut off all utilities, abandoned apartments.
Now, what you talking about one apartment in a building, or what? What's the scenario?
Would that be considered a fire hazard that we'd have to maintain those utilities if tenants shut them off and stop paying PSE&G and there's just no utilities in there? Is that considered a fire hazard we'd have to maintain?
No, I don't foresee any hazard there. The utilities are off, correct?
Utilities
Gas
are
and electric?
completely shut off.
Yeah, then
It's shut down.
it's not a hazard to us, you know, so I don't see any problem with that.
You want to know if there's a fire, something against the fire code for you to shut the utility?
Yeah, if that would be considered a fire hazard if a tenant abandoned a property.
No, not really.
Not if you shut the utilities though.
Only if the winter time, you might have to take it on.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, but-
Are we required to keep those utilities in that apartment up to date as a fire hazard? That keep-
I don't think there's anything in the code that states that.
So we wouldn't have to pay.
You talk about a building like 40 units, like a 3-4 family
No,
house?
it's a single unit in a residential building.
Like again, a large apartment building or like a
Correct,
3 or
it's
4
a two-bedroom
family?
apartment in a 40-unit residential building.
No, if you just have one unit, say in a 40-unit building, the utilities are off. That's no hazard to us or anybody, really.
All right, so again,
They wanna
if there's
keep
any
things
further
moving.
questions for the law department, my cell phone number is on the list that you guys that were distributed, okay? Thanks for everybody coming in.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to keep it moving. We have two more presenters. Next is going to be Hanifa Norman, who handles rent leveling. After Ms. Norman, you're going to hear from Mr. DiFilippo, who is our health officer, Vincent DiFilippo. So with that, Hanifa Norman.
Hi, majority of you guys know me. I'm Hanifa Norman. Been with the city about 18 years. I handle rent leveling now. You guys used to do rent level with Sandy Mason. She retired a year ago. And I also handle the superintendent and I also assist code enforcement. Every year, the rent rolls have to be registered with the city of Orange. Anything 4 units or more has to be registered with the city of Orange. And then also superintendent, 4 units or more, you need to register superintendent. If you get a new superintendent, the superintendent will have to take the test. If it's the same super, you just have to pay annually. The fee for a superintendent is $175. So any units of 4 or more needs to have a superintendent. Any units of 25 or more will have to have a full-time super that's living on the premises. With the rent leveling, with the increase, sometimes you guys charge a little bit too much. Tenants call me and complaining that it's actually too much. If you have the same tenant and you're renewing the lease, if you supply heat and hot water, it's 5%, you can only go up. You can also go up 5% on the parking, so it's separate. If you do not supply heat and hot water, you only can go up 4%, and also 4% on the parking if you supply parking. You get a lot of issues with, the conflict of the lease. So if you want your tenant to abide by all the rules and regulations, you need to put that in the lease. Compared to, for example, some tenants might put garbage outside their apartment. I know a couple owners have stressed that, so you need to put that in the lease. If you as a tenant is putting garbage outside the apartment, not actually outside their door, and not where it's supposed to be in a dumpster, you would get, let's say, off the top of my head, a $50 fee. Or if you're late, you need to specialize with the late fee. If you want to do 10% of their rent, or you want to do $100 or $50, you have to put that in the lease so the tenant is aware. Sometimes tenants don't read the whole lease, but you as property owners need to put everything in the lease that you want your tenants to abide by. Okay, I work hand in hand with code enforcement, so any issues that they get and that's pertaining to rent leveling, they bring it over to me. But if you guys have any questions, you can I'm always reachable by cell phone, the city cell phone, or email. I can give you my cell phone number. You guys ready? It's 973-747-9520. You give me a call, or you can text, or you can email. I will answer all emails, calls, or text messages.
What's the phone number again?
973-747-9520.
And your name again, please?
Hanifa Norman. Yes.
If you retire, do you have a discount in the country?
I'm sorry, repeat
If
yourself?
you're senior citizen, do you have
Yes,
discount in
yes,
the country?
with the tenants. Any seniors that's 65 or older, that's a good question, Brian. Any tenants that's 65 or older, you only can charge 2%. That's the cap. Can't go 5%, can't go 4%, can't go 3%. It's only 2%. But most of the time they're on a set income. They only getting Social Security, and they probably, I think they get it like the second week of the month. So they're on the set income. You only can charge 2%.
Okay, so what do you have for the homeowner and the taxes?
I'm sorry?
What do you have for the homeowner and his taxes?
The taxes, that's not my department.
Good question.
Anybody else have a question? Yes.
Is an
I'll close that up.
owner-occupied four-family required a superintendent?
No. Any more questions?
At what point do you require superintendent?
4 units or more. 4-time super, 25 units or more.
What was the question?
If you have 4 or more units, but not owner occupied,
Right.
4 or more units requires a superintendent.
Yes.
But an owner-occupied.
If it's over, when they become resident.
If it's owner occupied and it's just 4 units, no, you don't require a superintendent.
At what point do you need a superintendent on site?
25 units or more.
How do we know, how do they communicate to you that who their super is and how with their contact information?
It's an annual superintendent application that we send out along with the rent rolls. You guys have to return the application along with the rent rolls on time. We sent it out already, but this next year, 2022, we will be sending it out early. Because of COVID, we're just getting back in the office, but just know we will be sending it out next year. Okay?
That's why you asked the ages on there.
65?
Yeah, I put a question mark, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
How old everybody is.
65 or older, only 2% you get increase. And then also with the vacancy control, if you have a apartment that your tenant is leaving and you want to bring it up to market rate, you have to apply for vacancy control. It's $100. Code enforcement inspector will go out, inspect the property, and let me know if it passed. But to bring it up to market rate, you can't just basically change the outlets and change the screens on the window. No, you have to make some repairs in there. Change the countertop, get new windows if the apartment is old, new flooring, because the market rate, the state brings out the market rate each year for studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and so on. But if you want to charge market rate, but you have to apply for vacancy control. And it has to be a new tenant coming in, not an old tenant that you're just renewing the lease. Okay.
Everyone has Ms.
Everybody
Norman's
have a great day.
telephone number. If you have any additional questions, you'll be able to reach her. We're going to move on with our next presenter, Vincent DiFilippo, who is our health officer.
Mine's short and sweet. I really don't go to the apartments, but we do work cooperatively with code enforcement and fire department. We're very fortunate in our department. We do births, deaths, marriages, dog licenses, hair salons, and everything else. And also, in addition to that, we do dog licenses. I'm not going to go too much into it, just pertain to what you need, like regarding the lady said before, regarding the person who's there, and they have some complaints, she's not taking care of her apartment. The first step is that you have to take and notify the tenant yourself first, before you even call us about it. Code enforcement calls us out, we'd be more than happy to go out there. I'll give you some examples that we ran through, because short. We had somebody on Scotland Road that lived in a 50-unit apartment building that was making 40 dinners a day for Seton Hall College. We stumbled on it by mistake. First thing we did is contacted the super, let him know about it. It could be a fire hazard right away. You remember that one, Patricia?
Yes.
He was actually delivering food to Seton Hall. So, another thing is if you have people who are taking animals in your apartment, make sure that they're licensed. Put it in your agreement. If that dog isn't licensed, you know, there might be a potential exposure for rabies. So, I'm just gonna, yes.
How does one enforce that? People with animals and.
That should be in your lease. If it's not in your lease, that.
Existing tenant, and they come in with a new dog, do I force them to show that paperwork?
Yes.
And if
Well,
they don't show that paperwork.
that's actually a health hazard. I mean, you're looking for something, that dog gets loose in the hallway or anything like that, it bites somebody, that's the first thing we look for. And we will give out a ticket. We're not even gonna ask, we're just gonna give you a ticket right off the bat. Yes.
You know someone is actually operating a restaurant out of their apartment, that's definitely a code.
As of this year, they came out with the cottage food law. You're allowed up to $50,000, that's for pastry items. Anything other than that, no, you're not allowed to cook in your home. Number one, you take the liability of not knowing what's in the food and how they're preparing it. I mean, we have a commercial kitchen in Orange, we're very fortunate. And we're very fortunate in our department. We have somebody that has knowledge in housing, fire, and building. He's licensed in all three. So, you know, like I said, if they would call us, we'd be more than happy to go out, either to Kafani or Township. We'll go out there, or even call our, we work hand in hand together. Yes.
So I got a question. So I have a tenant that has chickens in the basement, and you know, he's a hoarder in the apartment and in the basement. I mean, you can't even walk in there. It's definitely, you know.
Let's address one thing first. In Orange, you're not allowed to have chicken.
Both.
In Orange, you're not allowed to have chicken.
No, right? Okay, so what do I do? I have him, you know, we're paying his electricity, his gas, because it's in the lease.
Did you tell him?
He owes like $27,000, and then now he, you know, now he got chickens, and you know, it's unsanitary.
Did you send the notice out yourself stating that to him first?
Send it to him.
You sent it to him already?
No.
Oh.
I'm just
You're
asking
gonna take the
because I
first
don't know what to
initiative.
do.
Okay, the first initiative is you're gonna send it to him.
Okay.
Certified in regular mail.
Okay.
So now when you call either us or Kafani, we'll have our animal control over there to tell him he has a certain amount of days to get rid of the chicken. And that's when we don't need just let him loose outside either. Because he'll get another ticket for that.
Where should he call us then?
Call the health department upstairs. The numbers have changed. I don't have it with me, but if you go on the website, it's there for you.
Feel free to give yourself.
Sure.
It's
973-789-4013.
Say again, sir?
973.
973.
789.
789.
4013.
4013. That's the health department. And that call should go in immediately because we don't know what kind of contaminants or diseases are permeating your basement. I don't know if they're affecting other tenants. You need to get rid of that immediately.
Normally, we don't go into the apartments unless we get called out, basically for lead or some kind of infestation. Code enforcement asks us for a particular reason to go out there with them. We will go out there with them.
So it's hard getting access there. You know, he's a truck driver. He has a gun. You know, so and he doesn't even allow me in there. So
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a number. Just see me after. As soon as Vinny wraps up, and I'll address that.
I'll give you the health department's number also, 973.
Here's the health department general number, 973.
952.
952.
6087.
6087. That's on your list as well.
Is there any other questions? I don't want to keep you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
This is your heckler in chief, just coming to close out. One of the things we did not mention was that we have a task force that goes out, and it includes all the people that spoke today. They go out as one unit, and when they're out, they can cite you for anything that happens at all. That situation is a perfect one where they have live chickens in the basement. I'm sure there are other violations that we're going to look at as well. But that task force goes out on a regular basis. You don't know when it's coming. All of a sudden, a group of city officials comes up and they show up. They show their badges. If they have to use police power, the policeman is there. If it's a fire issue, fire is there. Health, everybody that's involved that you heard today is part of that task force. They'll go out and see your property. Our objective here is to make sure we have one cohesive community that consists of residents, property owners, and the government, and then work together to make sure that we have safety and cohesion in all that we do. It's not going to be perfect. Today is just a start of something I thought would be informative, where we can start to bridge the gap, because in January I have pushed our people to make sure that we are aggressive in property maintenance, make sure that we're responding to residents in a timely and firm fashion. That part is strictly important. I don't know, did the court go yet? Did municipal court go yet? James, come on up.
Well, I wasn't able to finish it, but since you're addressing enforcement, I work directly with code enforcement. When they issue a summons for property maintenance, then I will come in and clean it up. So I don't want to come in and clean it up, because that makes us have to place a lien on your property.
All right, yeah, I'm going to go through that too. Maybe that's another area that dovetails property enforcement, DPW, and legal. So you have a property, and you've done a renovation, and instead of getting the dumpster, you just put it in your backyard, because you're going to wait until you get everything out, and you're going to dump it there for a period of time. You don't do it, you get a ticket from us. You either pay it or you fail to pay it, but the debris is still there. I can now come in, call DPW, bring a dumpster in, go clean up your entire property, and then charge you for the time, the material, and a fine on top of all of that. It becomes a lien on your property. If I'm diligent, I sell the lien, somebody forecloses on the lien and tries to take your property. So we have that as a police power in every municipality. We don't exercise it if we try to work with you, but some people just abandon the job altogether. Of course, we have to exercise it. You get a summons in the mail. This is James Moss, our court director. I don't really need him to speak because he's the court director. I don't want to blur the lines between a possible defendant and the court. But James Moss is a court director. The person that you will see at the courts is 29 North Park Street, not North Day Street, North Park Street. That's where the courts are. They're upstairs. You see a window. You can go there and pay. You can inquire about your tickets. But you get a computer-generated notice in the mail that says, here's your violation. Here's when you have to come to court, and here's your docket number. You come to court. You can see Zoom information on that as well, if it's a Zoom. And of course, you have the right to request in-person tickets as well. But the court cannot pull a warrant. So if you don't come because you didn't get it or because the date slipped your mind, you can't call the court and say pull the warrant. All he does is report to the judge, this person came, this person did not come. It's the judge who opposes the warrants, and it's the judge who can lift the warrants. But the courts are open for questions, they're open to receive payment, but they're not open to negotiate your tickets or to adjudicate your tickets or to take your complaints about your tickets. They're simply there to enforce whatever the court ruled on your ticket, to collect, to let you know information, and so forth. The police check in with the court, and they'll know if there's a warrant been issued, and they'll come out and arrest you pursuant to that warrant that a judge has imposed. And that's about all that the court does. We are open for payment. Can you just let us know when the sessions are, the court sessions are?
The sessions are Monday at 12:30, Tuesday at 10. Code enforcement is Thursday at 10. We have court 3 Fridays a month. If your court date is a Thursday and it just doesn't able to work out, you can call me. I have a number here. All the judges can do it. We also need to get as much information from you as we can, phone numbers, emails. Here's 2 prosecutors whose numbers I can give you to speak to them. When you call the court, I have cell phone numbers and I have deputies. You call them directly because we are getting a lot of calls to the main number. Again, like the mayor said, a lot of people call, the first thing they yell at me is, I didn't take my garbage about the notice. My job is to get you information, get you the proper court dates, and make sure that you're into the Zoom session properly.
You don't want to hear anything.
Well, I didn't write the ticket, I don't own the property. I have copies of these with all of our numbers on there. My phone is 24 hours, my deputies are 24 hours. Again, court, the code enforcement is Thursdays, but if your schedule doesn't fit, we'll accommodate you. There'll be a different judge who will accommodate you. My staff will answer any questions only about court, not about the ticket or the inspector or the mayor or the DA, just questions about the session. I'll pass this to everybody now. Again, cell phone numbers that highlighted in the 20 code.
We didn't speak about garbage enforcement.
Garbage, garbage, garbage. We have ordinances on the books, and it tells you when you need a dumpster type of garbage can and when you need a regular garbage can. But it always tells you that you need a lid on your garbage. So things that we might think as minor as lids are going to be enforced. Plastic bags put out on the curb for garbage. The ordinance actually tells you the thickness of the plastic that you need. Those things are going to start to be enforced. The issue is rodents. Rodents, of course, like to eat our garbage, and if we give them more access, the more they'll come. So our aim is to try to contain our garbage as much as possible and have our places as clean as possible. But those are going to be critical issues that happen, and typically an enforcement measure is going to be, we went to your property, we saw that you had your garbage out in paper bags, we took a picture of your address, we sent you a summons that says, hey, you violated. And you have to come to court and you'll pay the fine. As the violations grow, the fines will grow and the penalties will start to grow. We are looking to have a cleaner city, and we have to have you guys involved in doing it. Yes, sir.
Recently, I had a notice, a yellow notice that my containers didn't have lids.
Yes.
They had lids, but when the people pick up the containers, they dump it in the truck, and the lids go with it inside, and they don't pick it up. And my containers got damaged. 2 of them got damaged like that. And I have 3 containers right now without any lids because of that same issue. They just dump it in there, and the lids go with it.
So the problem is that when the garbage men come, they just dump it, and they may dump the lids out as well. We'll certainly, we have jurisdiction over the garbage people, so we'll certainly address that concern. And if that happens, please let us know, because it's incumbent upon us, if those things continue to happen, they're violations, it's up to us to go after the garbage company and say you should be reimbursing our people when you damage their lids. I'm also going to ask the inspection people that sent you that notice that to put on that notice that we have pictures available of when it occurred. Because you shouldn't have to guess as to what point your lid was off or anything like that. They should take a picture, which will have a time and date.
I have pictures on my phone when I saw this kind of stuff. All the neighbors have containers without the lid. And I don't know if they got violation notice or what, but I was one that got.
I'm sure our diligent inspectors got violations for them too, but we'll check to make sure that we're meeting it out even. Yes, sir.
This is a question for DPW. Is there a bulk collection day in this town?
Yes.
Why don't we just give you the schedule right now of bulk day? There's bulk, let's give them the schedule of regular garbage. Do you have copies?
Yeah, we'll get
Okay, we're gonna get notices because there's bulk day, there's plastic, there's paper, and regular pickup. We'll get you notices of that. Make sure there's enough copies, Randy.
I have one other question here, if you don't mind. Who is responsible for cleaning the drains? I mean, that was the last time that was done. Because when we had Ida recently, building where I work, at 311 Reynolds Terrace, the entire basement got flooded because the water built up so much in the parking lot and the road. There was no way more water to go anywhere.
Marty, can you just give
us... The
us...
entire basement flooded, 7.5 feet of water. Everything was damaged in there. The boiler, included the boiler.
Marty, give us whether or not we have a schedule for cleaning the catch basins. What is the schedule? And how can we get in touch when it's a problem?
Anybody that's experienced any issue like that around your area, around your community, around your school, please give a call to Public Works. We contact the water company, and there is a specific schedule for when they can get to the catch basin. So again, that's...
Do we have a schedule?
The water company may give us a schedule, yes.
All right, can we put that on the website?
Yes. So that's my number I gave you earlier. It's 973. I'm the person involved if any of you experience in that.
Is it safe to say by January 1st, we're going to have it up on the website?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
One clarification.
Oh, hold on a second.
If the drain happens to be on private property, in a parking lot or apartment building, that's the responsibility of the property.
That's on the road, it was coming up like
Yeah, the public ones are ours. Yes, sir.
I have an empty lot that belongs to somebody else in front of two of my properties. Has a tree line, and these trees are massive, and those leaves are constantly coming to my property. and I'm constantly cleaning them, but it's so difficult. There's so many trees, it's just mounds of leaves that I have to keep cleaning because of an empty lot there. What can I do?
Let me stop. I'm going to stop you right there, but I'm going to address two issues while you're at it. That's between you and the property owner. We have nothing to do with it whatsoever. We won't get involved. We won't touch it because it creates liability for us. But I do want to address when you have trees on the sidewalk, on the public way, to break up the sidewalk. Ray, if you can just give me that. Just inform us as to whose tree is it, when is the homeowner responsible, when is the city responsible, and who's responsible for the sidewalk on
Ray Winfield, Assistant Director of Public Works. So when it's the trees that's to the curb, that is the responsibility of the city. The only way we would take them down is they're dead. Just because you don't want them there.
Now, where's the curb?
The curb between.
There's the street.
The street.
There's a little hump called the curb. There's grass.
Right.
That's where the trees
so
are.
So the easement between
the curb and the sidewalk.
Correct. That is our responsibility. If they're dead, we'll take them down. If you have an insurance issue where the roof is protruding the sidewalk, causing it to lift, that's our responsibility as well. So we would just cut out the stump. If we can take out the stump only, and leave the tree existing, we'll do that. But if we have to take the tree down, we'll take the tree down.
What about the sidewalk?
The sidewalk is the owner's responsibility, not the city's.
If our tree breaks the sidewalk?
It's still the owner's responsibility, not the city's.
But the tree is breaking up the sidewalk.
It's
blocking the tree.
That's the ordinance that. You're still responsible for the sidewalk. That's why when the insurance company comes out, they say you're responsible for the sidewalk. You call me, I take the tree down, but you're still responsible for the sidewalk. That's in the ordinance. I can't supersede the law. But in some occasions where they're going through high voltage wires, we at the mercy of public service. So
if a branch is protruding into your house, and let's say it's dead, and we have to cut it, we first have to call the utility to get permission. They'll come out, give us permission. They'll come out and actually get someone to cut it because we don't go near wires. Yes, sir.
Do you trim the roots if they're raising the sidewalk or anything? If the roots of the tree
are too high and going to raise the sidewalk, do we trim the roots?
Yeah, we will trim. Our first process is to trim the roots out if they're not there. But if we have to take the tree down, we will. But we avoid from taking down live trees. A lot of times
well,
people.
I'm not talking about that. Cutting the root that's going under the sidewalk.
If it's causing the sidewalk to crack, break, or lift.
Okay.
But we're not responsible for putting the sidewalk down.
I understand that, but it's only going to get worse.
All right.
Yes, sir.
How often do we bait the sewers for the rats?
Good question. Vinny, question is, how often do we bait the sewers for rodents?
We do a minimum of once a year. If there's a complaint on a certain area, we'll go out and bait that area. The city has a program. We started about eight years ago.
So we do it annually. We bait the sewers for rodents annually, but if there's a particular right. We've gone long beyond the hour and a half that I projected for today, but I know that you guys are getting such good information that you allow it to go on. But I'm going to step in because it's been 2 hours and end our session. We're going to do this on a regular basis. I am even unstable enough to have a meeting like this with tenants at some point as well. I don't know that my tenant meeting is going to be this calm, but I got to foray into it just because I want to give everyone an opportunity to address our city leaders and officials so that we can live in harmony. Say it again?
You're not going to want to work with my question.
So on taxes, if you have taxes, you file a tax appeal, of course, with the tax assessor. The date is coming up January 1st, the year between January 1st and April. It may have been altered by COVID, but that is the time period. Also, and I'm sure our business administrator addressed this when he first came up here. If your building has a pilot, those are being reviewed. So make sure that your payments are intact. Make sure that your increases are paid and that you're on par with those. Because we're doing a thorough review of those in the upcoming year. That's going to be an issue for some.